we're going to do is have Chris stream an episode of the Lex Fridman podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, where he talks about AI a bunch, and it's really in line with our vision that's developing with chatbots. Like, he's describing exactly what we're working on. So I kind of want to just play off that and create some content this way, and also just it's a way for us to all just kind of discuss it. It's just like a casual forum. So I was thinking we start a little bit in after the jiu-jitsu stuff, right? I think we need to sit there and watch that. It's like
here it is. They have them by chapters down here.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, that's exactly right. Let's just check this out. Could we use Facebook's AI? I guess like what is he describing something that's like ChatGPT, that's like that we could just plug in instead of ChatGPT?
Yes, all of these models that they've open sourced, these are basically being forked off by anyone and anybody who wants to use them to further train other models. There's a couple of products that have come out. There's one called GPT for All that specifically uses this model instead of the OpenAI stuff, the lay-in model. So let me actually come back here so you can see. These are so Meta has 695 models that they've open sourced. And some of these are text to speech. Some of them are content rephrasing, translation things. There's just a ton of these that are out there. They've got image conversions. So they've been really good about open sourcing a lot of this stuff that anybody can then, as you see, they'll build a space that's running the code that then can utilize the model, and you can build a little mini bot off of it and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, that's one of the big things that their choice to go open source with that. It did let a few cats out of the bag, but it's a much smaller model, and he'll get to that than the other ones that are out there as well. Right.
But it does seem like he just kind of came out with this after ChatGPT. Like, everyone is like releasing what they've had for years, probably, like Google, and they just kind of put it out there. Really quick, right?
Yeah, they think it was back in around February is when a lot of these models were coming out. The ChatGPT, the 3 version came out in November, and I think these guys came out with theirs in February.
Okay.
But
yeah,
not
an urgent thing, but I think I will probably like just see what James has to say about that, like why we would choose one model over another. Like, I don't know, maybe Facebook's better at certain things. Like, they have so many images to process that are all tagged. Maybe they're
let me do a quick new share for you guys, okay? Just
can I just say something?
Yeah, sure, Terry.
Please.
Yeah.
It almost seems like just from that segment that he's got so much open source stuff that he kind of alluded to harvesting it all in the future, because he mentioned, journalists, students, hackers as legitimate sources of educating as educators for AI, right? Am I understanding it correctly? So to me, it sounds like he wants the average Joe, and he mentioned that, eventually it'll become affordable for everybody, but it sounds to me like he's building this to be available for everybody so that eventually we'll have this giant supercomputer that is everything ever available that can be used in AI.
Right.
That's not quite, because each of these guys are taking different methods of training the models, and a lot of them even are creating their own data sets. So this is the Llama data set, and 67% of it is from Common Crawl, which is basically just a program that pulls text from all around the web. I don't know what C4 is. What is that? That's it's another 4.5% comes from GitHub. They're using Wikipedia. Gutenberg, Stack Exchange. All of these things are going into these models. But as a contrast, this is Google's model. They did 50% social media conversations. Filtered web pages, I think, is similar to the crawl thing. Books is probably similar to Gutenberg, GitHub, Wikipedia, and then they even have 1% is just called news. So yeah, so they're and then they're also training them very differently. So you end up with quite a different or quite a diverse set of tasks that certain models perform better at and are more efficient at performing and are also more efficient at training.
Right. But I guess what I'm thinking, and this is just my impression of Zuckerberg, is he has this incredible mind and an unlimited amount of resources. And eventually he's going to want to pull all this stuff into one giant treasure chest of information where everything is consolidated in one place. That's what I'm getting out of this conversation, is right now the stage of gathering information and educating.
That's the open source part.
Right.
The other part is it's going to be Facebook, and he'll get into this on in a few minutes on what they're going to be doing, because they're making this stuff open source for researchers. They're also making some of their hardware infrastructure open for training for researchers. But then they're only releasing what he keeps calling the version 1 model and all this, and he never really talks about he kind of gets into what they're doing with the 2nd gen model and how they're going to be using it on Facebook. So I think there's 2 prongs to that.
Yeah, and that leads to another question is, once he has all this information, and assuming he does consolidate it, is there going to be any monetary compensation for all the people that are doing this research? Just an open-ended question, not expecting an answer.
Because those researchers are doing something for themselves, and then they can then commercialize that themselves, depending on what kind of licensing they get from Facebook. Facebook is not going to pay anyone whose data they're using, because it's all coming from their service or public sources. I think the main thing he wants researchers to help with, though, is to open source the human interaction with the models that will better align them and help more fully develop the safety rails and stuff like that. If the model's out there and a lot of people can tweak it and play with it and see what's going on, they can help contribute to the overall safety of the model, because they all have access to that one. I think that's what the research mining is one that particular point is kind of one that he's focused on.
I saw an article on Editor and Publisher, I can't find it, about one of our sort of competitors, like small town newspapers. They do just e-editions, I think. They're like shutting out the bots, and it's just kind of that whole 1% of the data coming from news sources made me think about that. Because that's something, I don't know, we've got to get a better understanding of, I guess. Like,
how about this? There is a complete data set of the CNN and Daily Mail archives. This is 300,000 news articles. And here's the article, here's the highlight, and here's the ID string. So this is the data set they're using to translate or to train models on just this type of language using. They're not copying this word for word. They're just using it to train the tokenization and the predictive things that are going on.
Right. That's the thing, though. Like, this is a whole new paradigm. Everything is shifted because they're not copying, like all copyright. It's just not really helpful because they are storing the information, they're downloading it, but they're not serving it exactly as it was originally written. But they are getting value, from that information.
And you have to remember that the data set is like actually just a list of links, but the model itself is all that tokenization and weights and biases and alignment stuff that goes in, and that lives in the model itself. The data set just kind of lives there as a benign piece of research that some people have put together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great note for Tyler. I think that's a good way to put it when you're talking about WordPress. I usually focus on the fact that it's like the most popular out there, and therefore you get like quick development. But I think that's also probably like a good thing that he could say about WordPress, right, James? I mean, is that fair? The fact that it's open source makes it more secure. It's interesting way to look at it. So yeah, anyway, James, this is kind of out of nowhere, but I'm just trying to like facilitate discussion around this podcast. There's just like a few sections that are really good in here. And I was just going to ask you, I specifically wanted you to get on now because he's talking about Lambda, and I don't know, do you know anything about that, or do you have any interest in that?
Yeah. I played around with it a little bit. There's also one of the YouTubers I follow is the developer of that clone that I just posted in chat. They built basically a GPT clone using the Llama model.
Awesome.
There's a lot of development going on with that.
Okay. You mind dropping the YouTube link? I'd like to check this person out if you follow them.
Sure.
And that's Leon, right? That's doing that, because that's who made the original land model that Stability funded as well. Yeah, this is them. Yeah, this is the nonprofit liberating. Yeah, these are the people who Stability paid to make the $5 billion or 5 billion parameter model that they used to train GPT-3. Yeah, and I can show you these guys too.
Yeah, we can go into the technical stuff and also products. I think he's going to talk a little bit more about that coming up. So yeah, go ahead and roll it, Chris. Thanks.
Sorry, I just want to jump in on this because he harps on this a lot, just saying that his model is just not as sophisticated, so he doesn't have to worry about it as much. My thought would be us as a company, we'd want to provide that for our customers in the same way that he wants to provide that for his customers. But I'm not sure how many of our customers are going to necessarily want Facebook to be the middleman when maybe their hosting provider can step in and provide that, and they don't have to deal with the Facebook paradigm.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I can totally see him just having it as an option, because you can chat with pages now and the admin of the page talks back. He'll probably introduce it as like, we'll give you prompts first, and then it'll just say like, now there's an option to be completely automated. So it'll just chat with your followers. Yeah,
Lex has already said he wants to open source a copy of himself.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of cool. Like some of these podcasters that talk, like that have hours and hours. It's okay. Hours and hours of material of them just talking and all their mannerisms. Those will be the people to be copied first. It's like maybe part
you guys,
of the reason for
there was a Joe Rogan episode.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's totally fake, right?
Totally fake. Yep.
Yeah.
He's a perfect example of somebody who has so much content that it's easy to do.
Right. So then I guess for us along those lines, like, could we have like, I don't know, a reporter's kind of voice where we have like different bots for different reporters eventually, like I'm just thinking long term where this kind of like naturally might go. Like at first it's just like a customer support bot that just answers basic questions. Then it's kind of like an archive assistant. And then you could just almost talk to people. I don't know.
I think that's possible with the current models. You can fine tune them based on existing content. So it would be possible to have them like look at the archives and then say, write something about whatever using the style in the archive.
I don't know if you guys saw the notes I put on, because I did some testing on the AI engine on the staging.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I want to talk about that too. Yeah.
So basically they have at the pro level, they have a couple of different ways of tuning the model specifically on your website data.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I think it will kind of work even if you don't do that.
Well, they have the context aware, but
yeah, right, exactly. I'm just not sure how well it'll work. without extensive testing. I'm sure it'll make stuff up.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing that they keep saying. It's not a search engine, it's not really for information. It's just this pattern recognition and pattern generator.
Well, I did see a couple implementations where even though it's just using the predictive engine of the model, but the data that it's using to generate the sentences can be limited just to your website.
Interesting. Yeah. So that would be cool. That would be really neat. I think, James, you've talked about that as a product, like autocomplete on the text editor, predictive text. So yeah. So it would kind of recognize, they give it a title, and then it would, it's hard to even describe how it would look at the archives about, previous articles about the same topic. I don't know how it would. It's hard to imagine how that would work, I guess, for me, because you're writing a brand new story about this case. Maybe you could, let's say it's like a court case. I like to always use that example, like an ongoing court case. It could maybe just put together a summary paragraph, based on the old articles or something.
What I had in mind is more you give it the facts.
I see. Okay. Yes.
And then you have it basically add all the the extra.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, we've talked about that, and I really would love to make it like the classic who, what, where, when, why. We have those as fields, maybe more, and then there's miscellaneous facts, but that kind of guides them a little bit.
Well, this is an example where I gave it only a PDF of the Getty complaint and asked it for a summary.
Okay, right.
And so it's using all its language stuff, but the answers are only coming from, as far as I understand, and I did go read the PDF as well, so I didn't see anything hallucinatory about this. But if you actually are this focused with limiting it, it will only deliver from this data set, which is the PDF it scraped.
Mm-hmm. See, now you got me thinking about just stuff that is very time consuming, like going to a town hall meeting or a school board meeting. If that could be recorded, and then we could be the source, we could be the service that they upload the recording to, transcribes it, and summarizes it.
That's absolutely right. Yep. This, especially stability for ChatGPT. They just, I think it's coming out June 27th. They're quadrupling the tokens that you can send to the bot now. So you'll be able to send much more text to them and get better summaries instead of having to chop it up as much as you've been doing before.
Okay.
So that's coming out. Yeah, the 16K token one's coming out pretty soon.
This is interesting. Could we maybe improve the model for the community, James? Is that something they could give feedback on the suggestions, either readers or the editors?
I'm not sure. I don't have enough experience to answer that question. I'm sure that if we had fine tuning in general, then we could have a central database for it. Kind of like we do for graphs. I mean, technically all of the graphs are one. So we could have a global fine tune and then a local fine tune.
Yes, right. I mean, we've kind of talked about this with audio articles, right? At some point,
right.
So this would be a similar database where you could have a local correction in the pronunciation.
Yeah, some of the things he's saying, by the way, about alignment. Yes, there's a lot of people that disagree with Facebook and OpenAI about alignment. Just about alignment in general, that they're actually doing anything and the model's actually being aligned. Basically, they think that it knows what to say and what not to say, but that doesn't mean it's actually aligned, which is the actual risk. Assuming that they achieve AGI, the models aren't aligned, and that's where it gets dangerous.
As I understand it, it's all about alignment, but like what does that mean exactly again? Define that. It's just
so alignment means that kind of more, it's more about humans making sure that they're on our side. Yeah. And they're not
it's the human reinforcement thing that Lex was just talking about.
Right.
Like they'll have a team going through and like, upvoting, downvoting and stuff, and that's their alignment, but it's in alignment with whoever's doing those tasks, those humans.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there's I'll share the video. This guy, sure. he's a little crazy, but he's super smart. It's with Lex. He basically goes on about how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
I think I had seen this. Yeah, he has a lot of great guests. I didn't watch
how AGI may kill us, super intelligence. Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely on the other end of the spectrum. Whether or not he's right. But I think there was a recent study that said 50% of AI researchers think that there's a 10% chance that AI will destroy humanity.
Well, he does get into, maybe we can hop along just a little bit, because he does get into that a bit more.
So let's pause here. I mean, this is I love this.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure we hit on this, because I thought that was some really good stuff there. Here, I'm going to back it up just a minute there. And Terry, I hope this was getting close to what you were talking about.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, this is good. It would be nice to, have AI that's drilled down to your own needs. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, it's like you have the engines that are out there and that are developed, but then you also have the tools to then only interface with those engines in a very narrow and focused way for your particular alignment or purpose. Yeah.
Maybe just total like brainstorming here.
Sure.
On like the business directory, could we have like chatbots for the local businesses that somehow like pull information from their Facebook page or their website and kind of like interact with the readers through there, maybe as a way to kind of breathe some life into online advertising?
It depends on the business, I think. Unfortunately, a lot of these businesses are not very well connected without even a website and stuff. But yeah, I mean, if they have an online presence, I don't see why that wouldn't work.
I guess even more basic would just be a chat bot that like sends them a text message and to generate leads and stuff. But that doesn't even require AI. Well, just kind of going off of what he was saying there, like creating custom chat bots. I think, isn't that possible in our plugin? Like, you created the one for our hometown, but like a newspaper could potentially create one, like a sports chat bot and like a support one. They could have multiple.
I would assume it with however the tools are. This is one thing we'll need to test is with the plugin that we've been testing. I think we might need to step it up and actually see how the training / embedding vector database stuff works to see how, what kind of tailoring we could actually offer.
I've watched this once and I really just wanted you all to hear, kind of this visionary describing what we're working on. So I just think that was very cool. Could we just go over to your testing really quick? Could you pull up the staging site? I would just love to talk about, so I think it kind of passed all your tests.
We were talking about a chatbot for like sports. I can see how that would work, but as a topic. So how else would something like that on a newspaper's website benefit the publisher? I mean, I'm thinking events, but it's almost like too specific.
Well, yeah, I guess I just imagine it as a way to really drive traffic to the site, drive traffic within the site, because the bot could.
Sure, that's what I see. It could definitely work for sports because you could get all kinds of stats and.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if it could synthesize that for you. Like you ask about your grandson's like track record, and it like.
Right. Oh yeah.
Be crazy.
As far as the math side of stuff, it's so bad.
Math.
Really? Yeah.
Well,
Wolfgram has a plugin for it. I don't think that would work with this, but yeah, if you ask it like some basic math questions, I think the SEO expert kind of showed us that as an example.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That Wolfram stuff is cool. There's another podcast maybe we can talk about at some
For
point.
that one's pretty
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah, very. Yeah. But
You can see what this is doing. This is a default template, and it's basically doing all the post inject or pre-prompt injection for each of the tasks that are involved in building a post. And so you could basically create a new template and completely update this to refer to more specific content and things like that.
The main limitation with this is that it does not produce very lengthy articles. There's no clear or easy way that I can see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe by modifying the template it would work, but there's no clear way to make it longer. It's the limitation of the model itself, then the amount of tokens. As they increase it, I think it'll get better. But there are some tools that kind of get around that. There's something called Baby AGI. Forget the name of the other one, but basically what it does is it makes subsequent calls. So something like that would work. We just have to kind of develop that on our own. So basically call one paragraph at a time rather than write this entire article.
Kind of what
I just wanted to show you what the AI tools look like in the editor. So you've got titles and excerpts, and then you've got this wand that has a couple of things.
Oh, cool.
But the problem is it only operates on one block at a time, so it's not aware of the other blocks. And there's no tool within this editor to say, I want to take these 3 paragraphs and expand them into 6 paragraphs. That's just not it. It just doesn't do that. Gotcha. You have to go back and kind of like regenerate more content in the generator and then maybe like dump it into the post or something like that.
What about if you took out the in-story headers? Are those necessary?
Just remove all the paragraph breaks. It's just one long paragraph.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, here you go. Longer text. And then resplit it up. Yeah, okay, let's see what happens. Yeah.
So this is how you would use this to benefit publishers.
Yeah.
But James, you're saying for anything that's statistic related, it's not going to work?
There you go. It just popped out more stuff.
If it has to compile it itself, then yeah, it won't work. If it's just flat out written, it can retrieve it. But if it thinks that you're asking it to do math, it's gonna mess it up.
So you can't ask how many T-ball games the red team won last summer.
Right? If it was written somewhere, then it might work. But yeah, I would say that there's a chance that it would still get it wrong, even if it was written, if it thinks that you're asking it to add them up itself.
Wow, that seems like it should be a basic component of AI.
But that's just a complete mischaracterization once you understand that it's just an autocomplete. They've got ones, if you say you can actually put in the prompt 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 3, and then you can say 3 + 1 = what? And the model will figure it out.
Right.
I see. Okay. I get what yeah. Now that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's not general AI. It is basically a giant autocomplete.
I have to be reminded that it's not a thinking tool. It's just generating from what it knows. I mean, if you don't know trig, you're not going to be able to solve a trig problem. So,
I would say that in logic, it actually is a thinking tool. Just with mathematics, it's different.
I understand the logic. Yeah, I do get that. Yeah, okay. I think I got a better vision now. Why do I knew that before, but why do I just keep hopping back to this as a giant thinking machine when it's really not?
Well, it tricks you.
Yeah.
It's very confident.
Yes. It seems like the opportunity is to recognize and explain to people this is not AGI, but if you use these tools that have like specific prompts, like we could have a sports template where it's just like put in the scores, the team names, players, and write the story and just guide them so it does, the end result is like an AGI.
Lisa Payne does every day for County Press. She does the sports story, scores, names of players, positions, any highlights. That's what we should test her on this.
And see if that was in her personal database, she wouldn't have to do all that every time. She could just like, this player's here, fill in their stats from last year, and it just could spit it out for you.
I'm just not sure how this specific work, the plugin will work. We would have to we'd have to do some real testing on that before we gave it to a customer.
And there are definitely a bunch of these coming out. So, I mean, we don't have to just, we should test a few.
And Christopher, I noticed when you were doing that post back there, when you expanded, does it not, I mean, you were using, okay, now it's broken up into paragraphs, but before it wasn't.
I did that myself. Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't generate paragraphs, or it doesn't distinguish one from another?
No, so if I just take this.
Okay, so you actually have to, that's not a bad thing. You actually have to go and read it. So, you know.
Yeah, and so you can just do longer text.
Yeah.
And it'll just expand this out.
Now, is that because it's a paragraph block, or is it just?
Yes.
If you used an article, would it break it into paragraphs?
That's kind of what this does over here, because you can tell it you want up to 10 paragraphs of content and stuff like that. So basically, you probably do a bit more work on this page before you send it over to the post, because I think I'll test this out, but I think you might be able to like select content that it generates and maybe select it and get it to regenerate and do some stuff right in here before you actually take it over to your layout stuff. There you go. You can see how much I selected and how much it added.
Oh, that's crazy. I had no idea you had this in, block editor function. I thought it was just that page. That's cool.
And this one, I actually use this one. And so it comes up with 5 different headline variations. That I thought was actually very useful.
Those are long though, but those aren't going to look good if you decide to choose it for an email subject.
Okay, so now how can we figure out how much this is like looking at the archives and customizing recommendations? Is there a way to test that?
This site wouldn't be a good example. Now that it's working, we could test it on a customer site.
Yeah, maybe just like one of them with a lot of archives. It doesn't matter to me.
This is kind of what we're looking at over here. They've got embeddings, which is you create searchable data that can be reused to feed the chatbot and other AI or UI elements.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that we launch.
Yeah.
So it could be any site. It could just be something that's on.
We just turn it on and we can test it and then let them know maybe.
But yeah, they've got some tools that help you build a database to create embeddings and all that, which operate across the entire site if that's the data you give it. And then the content aware one is just aware of the current page they're visiting and is able to discuss and analyze that. Those are both of the pro upgrades.
What is it? Statistics and limits.
Oh, you can set limits and conditions on the amount of AI that gets used. Like, I guess, the number of calls and things like that.
That price is going up. It was cheaper before.
Yeah, I mean, it may be good just to do 5 websites or something and just roll it out to a couple of beta testers, as well as on staging and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Thanks for letting me drive for a little bit there, Matt. That was fun.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that was
Very
awesome discussion.